Here.
Councilmember Wozniak.
Here.
Supervisor Rafino.
Here. Stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have 17 resolutions. And we can start with number 1. Councilmember Leary, you have the first page.
Yes, sir. Mr. Supervisor and honorable town board members, I move the following resolution for adoption. Whereas the town board of the town of Lancaster has reviewed the 2022 tentative budget, which was presented on October 1st, 2021, and whereas pursuant to the New York State Town Law 106, after review of the presented tentative budget by the town board, any changes should be memorialized in writing via resolution and approved by a majority vote of the members of said town board. And whereas Councilmember Leary has reviewed the proposed 2022 tentative budget submitted by the supervisor and is requesting the following change. Page 7, A1340, budget officer, line item 100, budget officer change, amount to 0. Now therefore be it resolved that the aforementioned modification to the 2022 tentative budget be permitted following its adoption.
Do we have a second?
Second.
On the question? I have some questions. Councilmember Leary, you continue to discriminate against the supervisor position merely because of the person holding the seat. In 2011, the supervisor position salary was at $82,563, with $74,440 the salary, $81,22 to the budget officer and a vehicle. 10 years later, it is at $72,164. Town clerk is at $90,278, over $18,000 greater than the supervisor. The $7,500 stipend would raise the supervisor's salary to $79,554. Still less than the salary from 2011, and still over $11,500 less than town clerk. So I guess my question is, why is there no resolution from you to move or lessen stipends for others?
Because those stipends are deserved.
Oh, you're saying I don't deserve it?
That's exactly what I'm saying.
Okay.
And state law also states that you are the budget officer. The supervisor is the budget officer. The reason that they have the...
I want to be on the record to say I don't deserve it. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, the budget was late, again, for the second year in a row. There were mistakes within the budget. We should have had a budgetary meeting to discuss the tentative budget before we got to this point. We're having it right now. It could have been done last week. Also, the exemptions. Have you turned in the exemptions list yet? That's supposed to be attached to the tentative budget.
No.
Okay. Well, again, there's all sorts of reasons why I don't think you deserve it. But also, under state law, you are the budget officer. So those stipends are generally in place for part-time supervisors who work in small towns, who have to come in on their own time to work on the budget. Not for a large town like the town of Lancaster, where you have somebody to work for you. We have somebody to do the budgetary work for you, so a finance director. So again, that's my reasoning for it. I haven't changed from last year. That's my thoughts on the whole process, and going forward, that will be my thoughts in the future.
You haven't done your research on the towns, but that's okay. Okay, on the roll, please, on the roll.
Councilmember Dickman.
Yes.
Councilmember Leary.
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur.
No.
Councilmember Wozniak.
Yes.
Supervisor Rafino.
No.
Resolution number 2. I move the following resolution for adoption. Whereas the town board of the town of Lancaster has reviewed the 2022 tentative budget, which was presented on October 1st, 2021, and whereas pursuant to New York State law, New York State Town Law, Section 106, after review of the presented tentative budget by the town board, any changes should be memorialized in writing via resolution and approved by a majority vote of the members of said town board. And whereas Councilmember Leary has reviewed the proposed 2022 tentative budget submitted by Supervisor Rafino and is requesting the following changes. Okay. Page 9, A1440, engineer, line item 411, professional services retainer charge to $27,600. Line item 451, professional service change to $200,000. I believe there was an error in there. Now therefore be it resolved that the aforementioned modifications to the 2022 tentative budget be permitted following its adoption.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer? No. Councilmember Lozan?
No.
Supervisor Rupino?
No.
Okay, resolution number 3. This evening we have the department head from dog control in here, Jean Karn, and I'd like her to come up and say a few words about why I'm presenting this particular resolution, trying to get their salary back to what the department requested. We also have Chief Karn, and we also have Lieutenant Gummel to say a few words about dog control and why it's important that they be paid properly. So at this time, I would call upon Department Head Jean Karn.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Jean Karn, and I am in charge of Lancaster Dog Control. The job of the town of Lancaster Dog Control is to enforce state laws and local ordinances as related to dogs, to take custody of loose or dangerous dogs, and to humanely care for any dogs in our custody. The demands of our departments have grown since the pandemic and are continuing to increase with the ongoing growth of the town and the addition of the new dog park in Lancaster. There has not been a single day since June that we have not housed dogs in our kennels. The town board recently approved special use permits for residents to open kennels and sell dogs. According to these resolutions, our Lancaster dog control officers must now physically inspect the premises to verify compliance. Additionally, new procedures set by the supervisor's office now require me to enter all the invoices from our purchases into a website, which is time-consuming office work. Also, I must personally appear in the town, the village of Lancaster, and the village of Depew and follow through on all court cases since my employees have other jobs and cannot attend court through the cases due to the limit on the number of hours they are allowed to work. The number of calls we are taking is increasing, and the calls have been getting more dangerous. At least once a week we respond to dog bite calls. Last year in 2020, we received 2,225 calls. This year we have already received 2,439 calls, and we still have 3 months to go. Earlier this year, one of my employees was attacked by a dog, and now she will have permanent scarring. Many of the people that we deal with are the same people that the police deal with on a regular basis. And some of them have fighting dogs, which we have been required to take custody of and hold in our shelter. Lancaster Dog Control is expected to cover calls for service and take care of animals in our custody 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, in which is 168 hours per week. Right now, my employees can cover approximately 61 hours per week. How am I expected to run an entire department that runs full-time on a part-time staff? At this point, it is impossible to manage this department properly and efficiently. I myself work 35 hours per week, and I am the only department head in the entire town that is considered part-time. As of right now, I do not have any coverage for 3 nights of the week, and I must hope that no one calls in off their shift for the other nights. Last week, 2 of my employees were dropped back down to part-time permanent hours of 19.75 hours per week. I put in a request with Erie County and was denied the ability to have these employees continue working 35 hours per week. Currently, I have 4 part-time employees working for dog control. 1 employee only works Sundays for 11 and a half hours. The other employee works approximately 10 hours per week. And I have 2 other employees who can only work 19.75 hours per week, but are willing to work more hours. All of my employees currently make $14 per hour. I am not aware of any local business that pays that low of a wage to their experienced employees. Even brand new McDonald's employees are making $16 per hour. This job can be dangerous, and it can be very hard to find the right employees to do this work. During COVID, all the dog control officers were considered essential personnel. My employees worked the entire time through this pandemic, including entering houses to retrieve dogs if their owners ended up in the hospital due to COVID. I am asking the town to increase my employees' hours and pay. I do not want to lose trained, experienced, and hardworking employees who can all leave tomorrow and get paid more at any fast food restaurant. It is very unlikely that I could find quality replacement workers willing to handle dogs that can sometimes be dangerous while working only weekends and evenings. Lancaster Dog Control does bring in revenue for this town. The revenue includes dog licensing fees, which are supposed to remain within the dog control budget, according to the New York State Agricultural and Markets Law. We also bring in redemption fees for seized dogs and court fines. This year, so far from January to August, we issued 88 court tickets, and the town court only collected $175 in fines. That's for all 88 tickets, not just for one. The town is losing a lot of revenue through the town courts. This revenue should be used to pay for additional hours for my employees. For the 2022 budget, I am asking for myself to be made a full-time hourly employee and Elizabeth Bertozzi be given a salaried part-time position of 35 hours per week at $18 per hour. I am also asking that one or more of the other part-time DCOs will be allowed to work 35 hours on a seasonal basis during the warmer months of the year when we are usually busier. This, along with an increase in the part-time DCOs paid to $16 per hour, should allow us to ensure to have coverage during more of the week. I should remind the board that the town is morally and legally, according to New York State Agricultural and Markets Law, Article 26, Section 356, obligated to feed, water, and physically check on the welfare of the dogs that we house a minimum of every 12 hours. In the recent past, our DCOs have discovered dogs who have become ill or have gotten their heads stuck in the fencing during these checks. If I was allowed to have the employees to work these additional hours, it would help us better to serve the residents' needs and to make sure that all of the dogs in our custody, including many beloved family pets, receive the compassionate care that they deserve. Thank you.
Call upon Lieutenant Gummo or Chief Carmen if they want to add to it.
Hi, I'm Lieutenant Gummo with the Police Department. I met most of the board members, Mr. Major, I not met you. I just want to add that I've been involved with dog control. I was placed as a department liaison about 5 years ago by former Chief Gill. So I've been working very closely with dog control in many areas. Right now, currently with the way things are in dog control, they frequently don't have the proper staffing levels. So therefore, the police department has to take over and answer calls amongst our own. We're not trained dog professionals. The dog control officers in this town are the trained professionals in that area. We do the best we can, but that's their area of expertise, just like policing is our area of expertise. I think the request that DCO Karen has made to the board here, I don't think they're out of line. I think they are appropriate, and I think it would greatly benefit the service that the residents of the town are going to continue to get from their office.
Thank you.
Chief Karen, anything to add?
No, I think I'll cover everything unless you have any questions.
I don't. Any questions?
No, I have no.
I didn't read the resolution yet. Okay.
You okay if I just ask some generic questions?
Yeah.
I don't know about the this yet, so.
Yeah, no, I didn't think anybody had that. I apologize.
Gene, and it's no surprise. I mean, we are very supportive of dog control. I believe that in my heart, all five of us are. One of the issues that I've been sort of playing around with, my own crazy formulas, is how we can keep staffing to a minimum, but still maintain service to the animals, service to the community, as well as maintain the requirements by eggs and markets every 12 hours. One of the things that again, reviewing what other townships have in their annual budgets, the town of Lancaster far exceeds the dollar value of some of the other municipalities. Some of those municipalities are larger than us, as well as they do other animals, or whatever. So, I'm to the point where I need, whether it's a handshake agreement type of thing, right? I think there's a happy medium between where you are now and what you're asking for. I think we can get there if you're receptive to really looking at, and I'm not saying you haven't. I guess what I'm saying is we need to maybe better address, again, one of the issues came up, and I read your correspondence prior, is the data entry for, that type of thing, office time. I also know that in certain situations you need 2 dog control officers to handle some of these whacked out dogs, I get it. But there has to be a change of, maybe not methodology, but maybe standard operating procedures where, in lieu of having a dog control officer do the data entry, and I don't know, I've been in your office once in the last 10 months, but instead of having a dog control officer do that work, is it possible that maybe a part-time clerk typist do that work, or something like that? I don't know, and I guess that's my question, a long-winded question, but that's what I'm asking. Is there any way we can get to where you are now, to what you're asking for, even if this gets approved? Is there room for massaging this request of yours?
Well, as far as inputting data, we have to input the data. It's just like the police. We are the ones responding to the calls.
Yeah.
And I'm the one who has to write, or my employees, and that goes right to the state, some of those, information that we have to give them.
Mm-hmm.
And just to let you know that Clarence, for their personnel, they get $145,000, and we're only asking for $118,000 for their personnel. And I don't know how many dogs Clarence claims, but Buffalo, Chief Dwag, and Lancaster are probably the 3 biggest of intakes of dogs right now.
Volume of call.
Mhm.
Volume of calls.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Some of the other towns are divided up into many dog control officers. Like Tonawanda, they have like 3 different types of dog control officers.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I found pretty interesting was what Grand Island does. So they have, I believe, I don't know if it's a full-time dog control officer, but then they have assistants that are on call, and they only respond when there's a call for a dog seizure or whatever. I'm not 100%.
And they don't take in as many dogs and have as
Right,
many
you're
dogs
right.
as us.
That goes
So
without
that's
saying.
totally different.
Correct. Right, I get it. But I sort of, it was interesting how they do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the dollar amount, you think it'd be crazy that they pay their people, I think it's $15 for a 12-hour shift to be on call. So,
If you go back and look at what Dave Horn was making, 15, 20 years ago, we're making a lot less than he was and his employees.
with a lot more cost. Yeah. Yeah, so
Just to answer your question, we did try to implement something like that several years ago with having somebody on call and paying them, and we were told by it wasn't the current supervisor, but the previous supervisor's office, that was not, goes against state law or something like that. So, but they used to do that where people were on call where we could just call in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
I've been working with dog control officers for 25 years, and back 20 years ago, we would call in the middle of the night, someone would answer, someone would come out. It wasn't somebody sitting there, but they were at home and they would come out. And yeah, that we tried to implement something like that, and we were told it wasn't legal. So, yeah.
I'm the lawyer. All I know is what I understand what Grand Island does. I found it to be fairly interesting, and thought maybe we could look at something that way. Another thing, and again, I'm big on that whole volunteerism thing, and I know we spoke in the past. I mean, is there any way we can reach out to Mackay College for their vet tech people and maybe get some hours?
Absolutely not, because number one, that's a huge liability if one of them get hurt.
Well, so again, you got to bear with me. So in my simple mind, the vet tech would be strictly, or whatever volunteer would strictly be in the dog control facility, feeding the dogs, cleaning up after the dogs, that sort of thing, not actual physical.
That's a good way to get fed, is feeding them and taking care of them. That's a really good way to get fed, especially in our facility that we have now.
Okay. I guess that's all I have.
Any other questions?
Still going to read it, sir.
Oh, good.
Whereas the town board of the town of Lancaster has reviewed the 2022 tentative budget, which was presented on October 1, 2021, and whereas pursuant to New York State Town Law Section 106, and after review of the presented tentative budget by the town board, any changes should be memorialized in writing via resolution and approved by a majority vote of the members of said town board, and whereas Councilmember Leary has reviewed the proposed 2022 tentative budget submitted by Supervisor Rufino and is requesting the following changes. Page 11, A3510, control of dogs, line item 103, assistant dog control officers, change amount to $65,624. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the aforementioned modification to the 2022 tentative budget be permitted following its adoption.
May I have a second?
Second.
Are there any questions on the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
No.
Councilmember Roseman?
No.
Supervisor Rufino?
No.
Okay, the board, the next one deals with the outreach, for the program for the aging, and this evening we have the department head, Meredith Tiani, here to talk to us about the senior center and why we want to make these changes and the salaries of her employees. So, Meredith, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Meredith Tiani, Director of the Lancaster Senior Center. The changes we're requesting are to raise the part-time employee salaries. Right now, my part-timers are at $12.74 an hour, and my drivers are at $13.79 an hour. We provide a wealth of services for the seniors in our community, and I think, as you all know, the senior population has just exploded in town. We have gone from when I first started in 2016 from less than 1,000 members in the senior center to over 1,700 members. There are days you cannot get a parking spot at the senior center. Not only are we providing leagues and exercise classes, weekly activities, informational and educational programs, transportation services, congregate dining, frozen meal services. We also have to do all the setups, the breakdowns, all the administrative work. It's a non-stop day for us. And my employees are some of the most loyal, dedicated, and hardworking employees. And I think we all know you could literally go next door to Tim Hortons and they can get $16, $17 an hour anywhere. We're not even asking for that. What I'm asking for is to raise my employees that are at $12.74 an hour to $13.50, and to raise my drivers from $13.79 to $14.50 an hour. And without the increase in the budget, we would not be able to even pay that. We're not even asking for $15, $16 an hour, but even to pay this, we have to have the increase because of the amount of traffic we have in the building, the amount of hours we have to work just to provide these services. The drivers are no longer working 4 or 5 hour days, they're putting in 8 hour days. There's so much need out there. Pretty much it.
Is it correct that the van generates approximately $9,000 per year in donations?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, and the classes produce approximately $19,253 in revenue per year?
The classes, you mean the instructor classes, they actually, I just went over that again today, they provide about $28,000 a year.
$28,000, okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
You have to actually read the resolution first, please.
Whereas the town board of the town of Lancaster has reviewed the 2022 tentative budget, thank you very much. Tentative budget, which was presented on October 1, 2021, and whereas pursuant to New York State Town Law, Section 106, after review of the presented tentative budget by the town board, and any changes should be memorialized in writing via resolution and approved by majority vote of the members of said town board, and whereas Councilmember Leary has reviewed the proposed 2022 tentative budget submitted by Supervisor Rufino and is requesting the following changes. Page 15, A7610, Programs for the Aging. Line item 101, Outreach Worker and Evening Supervision, change amount to $36,465. Line item 126, Senior Van Drivers, change amount to $60,326. Line item 127, Arts, Crafts, Ceramics, change amount to $35,282. Line item 128, Hot Meals Workers, change amount to $25,282. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the aforementioned modifications to the 2022 tentative budget be permitted following its adoption.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll?
Councilmember Tickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Councilmember Wozniak?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes.
Resolution number 5. Whereas the town board of the town of Lancaster has reviewed the 2022 tentative budget, which was presented on October 1, 2021, and whereas pursuant to New York State Town Law, Section 106, after review of the presented tentative budget by the town board, any changes should be memorialized in writing via resolution and approved by the majority vote of the members of said town board. And whereas Councilmember Leary has reviewed the proposed 2022 tentative budget submitted by Supervisor Rufino and is requesting the following changes. Now, before I do that, I'd like to ask our finance director, based on the amounts that changed in there, is that the correct amount that should be in there for the appropriated fund balance? Are you able to see the resolution? I just want to know if anything changed. I got $2,071,280.
I don't. I have 1.9 million. 1.9512.
Okay, I believe it was 1.6 on the sheet, which is why I made it. So the correct number,
Is 19512.
can we change that?
Yes.
One more time?
1,951,280.
280.
280.
Okay. Councilman reviewed proposed 2022 tentative budget and is requesting the following change. Appropriated fund balance change amount to $1,951,280. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the aforementioned modification to the 2022 tentative budget be permitted following its adoption.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Councilmember Wozniak?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 6. It's basically to change page 48. Whereas the town board of the town of Lancaster has reviewed the 2022 tentative budget was presented on October 1, 2021, and whereas pursuant to New York State Town Law, Section 106, after review of the presented tentative budget by the town board, any changes should be memorialized in writing in a resolution and approved by a majority vote of the members of said town board. And whereas Councilmember Leary has reviewed the proposed 2022 tentative budget submitted by Supervisor Rufino and is requesting the following change. Page 48, schedule of salaries of elected officials. We already voted on that. So it would be to change the supervisor total to $72,164. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the aforementioned modification to the 2022 tentative budget be permitted following its adoption.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
No.
Councilmember Wozniak?
No.
Supervisor Rufino?
No.
Resolution number 7. Whereas the town board of the town of Lancaster has reviewed the 2022 tentative budget, which was presented on October 1, 2021, and whereas pursuant to New York State Town Law 106, after review of the presented tentative budget by the town board, any changes should be memorialized in writing via resolution and approved by a majority vote of the members of said town board. And whereas Councilmember Leary has reviewed the proposed 2022 tentative budget submitted by Supervisor Rufino and is requesting the following changes. Page 53, tax rate schedule, analysis of sample tax bill in town outside villages, dollar increase, change to $17.93. Percent increase, change to, or decrease, change to negative 2.22%. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the aforementioned modifications to the 2022 tentative budget be permitted following its adoption.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question? On the
I do
roll.
have a question. Pam, is that by the right numbers?
There's I'm going to interrupt you pretty much. It should actually be a decrease of $17.93.
Yes, it should
not
be.
an increase.
How much should be a negative?
Correct.
1793.
Should be.
And then it would be a negative 2.2%. A decrease of 2.2%.
2.2%, okay. If there's no objections to that, analysis of sample tax bill in the town outside villages will be a dollar decrease, changed to negative 17.93, and percent decrease, changed to negative 2.22%.
On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Councilmember Wozniak?
Yes.
Supervisor Rufino?
Yes.
Okay, resolution number 8. Whereas the town board of the town of Lancaster has reviewed the 2022 tentative budget, which was presented on October 1, 2021, and whereas pursuant to New York State Town Law, Section 106, after review of the presented tentative budget by the town board, any changes should be memorialized in writing via resolution and approved by a majority vote of the members of said town board. And whereas Councilmember Leary has reviewed the proposed 2022 tentative budget submitted by Supervisor Rufino and is requesting the following change. Page 46, estimated unreserved fund balances at 12/31. This should be 2021. Estimated unreserved fund, no, 2020. Okay. 2020. Fire Protection District, the estimated fund balance deficit change amount to $227,896. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the aforementioned modification to the 2022 tentative budget be permitted following its adoption.
May I have a second?
Second.
On the question, Pam, is that the right order?
Yes.
On the question? On On the roll?
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Councilmember Wozniak?
Yes.
Supervisor Rupino?
Yes. I'd like to move resolution 9. And whereas Town Board of Town of Lancaster review the 2022 tentative budget. Again, these resolutions are due to some changes that came in from the assessor's office. We have to rerun the numbers. And whereas a public hearing on said 2022 tentative town budget will be held on November 1st, whereas a request for modification and amendment of the tentative budget has been made to the town board prior to its adoption as follows. Refuse district of additional carts changed to $349 amount to be raised for additional services, changed from $29,458 to $35,947. Number of primary benefits changed from $14,499 to $14,566. And the rate per primary benefit changed from $184 to $183 for primary benefit. Lighting district tax assessed valuation changed from $3,201,461,500 to $3,200,525,100, having no effect on the rate per thousand of taxable valuation. The fire protection district also has a change. Water district tax table has a change. General fund tax assessed valuation change, and highway fund taxable assessed valuation change. Highway fund town outside the villages taxable assessed valuation change. General fund town outside the villages taxable assessed valuation change as well, and the police fund taxable assessed valuation change as well. Now therefore be resolved that certain amendments and modifications of 2022 tentative budget be permitted following its adoption. May I have a second? Second. On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Councilmember Wozniak?
Yes.
Supervisor Rupino?
Yes. I'd like to move resolution number 10.
Excuse me, Ron. Can you speak into the mic because I know Lee's going to want to hear this. Thank you.
Resolution number 10, and this is reduce the professional services line in the assessor's budget from $150,000 to $70,000 due to an update received by the assessors from the courts. Change amount and the code being paid from to tax cancellations and refunds in the general fund budget to add $50,000. The county will be sending us a bill on 7. Now therefore be it resolved that certain amendments and modifications of the 2022 tentative budget be permitted following its adoption. May I have a second? Second. On the question? On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazur?
Yes.
Councilmember Wozniak?
Yes.
Supervisor Rupino?
Yes. Excited, the cursor took off. I'd like to move resolution number 11. And whereas the Town Board of Town of Lancaster has reviewed the 2022 tentative budget, whereas a public hearing on said 2022 tentative budget will be held in the Town Board of Town of Lancaster on November 1st. Whereas a request for modification and amendment of the tentative budget has been made to the Town Board prior to its adoption as follows. Below, again, we're going to go through changes that we talked about, taxable values for townwide general and non-family funds, taxable values for police fund, taxable values for town outside the village, general funds and highway funds, taxable values for street, special district street lighting, taxable values for special districts fire protection, taxable units for special districts refuge, taxable units for special districts refuge additional service, taxable units for special districts consolidated water, capital taxable values for special districts consolidated water, maintenance taxable values for special districts consolidated water, taxable values of Village of Pew, taxable values of Village of Lancaster, taxable values town outside the village. Percentage of taxable values total for the town, Village of Pew, Village of Lancaster, and town outside the villages, and also percentage of taxable values town and Village of Lancaster, only the Village of Lancaster and town outside the village. Now, therefore, be it resolved that certain amendments and modifications to the 2022 tentative budget be permitted following its adoption. May I have a second? On the question. On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
Yes.
Councilmember Leary?
Yes.
Councilmember Mazer?
Yes.
Councilmember Wozniak?
Yes.
Supervisor Kane?
Yes. Rule resolution number 12, listing all the following scheduled salaries being hereby adopted effective January 1st, 2022. Amounts represented in those salaries unless otherwise specified. The supervisor's budget officer, $7,500. Be further resolved that the terms of this resolution shall supersede the relevant terms of any previously adopted resolution, policy, or practices to the contrary. And a second. On the question.
Can I just clarify, just because reading these resolutions as we go through them, these all have to be voted on again in January. I just want to make sure everyone knows that. Okay. The schedule of salaries resolutions have to be by law voted on at the organizational meeting. So these identical resolutions will be up again in January. So I just want everyone to know that.
Are you suggesting just wait till January rather than?
I can't see anything preventing the board from addressing a filed resolution at this point, but they're going to have to be, by law, addressed again.
On the roll.
Councilmember Dickman?
No.
Councilmember Leary?
No.
Councilmember Mazer?
Yes.
Councilmember Wozniak?
No.
Supervisor Kane?
Yes.